I've been into astral projection a little bit more recently. It's one of the reasons as to why I started this channel. And I've ended up discovering a little bit more about astral projection. Well, it's probably an understatement. Quite a lot more about astral projection. And I'm quite excited about telling you all today some of it. I'm kind of curious as to how I'm going to be able to tell you this information, because every time I make a video, I struggle a little bit to get the information out. I have to try to make it make sense to the public. And so I am curious as to see, upon rewatching this video, how this story pans out. After going to Rhythmia and having an out-of-body experience there on plant medicine, I ended up discovering something about astral projection, the astral realms, actually, which, if you experience a specific type of experience in this part of the astral realm, then that experience could actually tell you something about your past life. They tend to mirror, or you'll tend to reenact or go through something that you've actually already been through in a past life within this specific domain of the astral realms. Okay. Now, those of you who aren't on my main channel, Ryan Cropper, you had just gotten a kind of a spoiler alert or a sneak peek as to what I'm going to be talking about in the follow-up to my ayahuasca experience video that's over there right now. And so you're a little bit lucky. I was trying not to tell anyone about what happened on that day just yet, but because of the nature of this video, I kind of had to. You see, I'm learning more about the astral realms. And one thing that kind of one thing that made me curious, was the fact that every time I would astral project, only a handful of people would remember me visiting them in the astral realm. The others simply couldn't remember, They couldn't remember the actual meditation that we had just gone through. To them, they had just laid down, fell asleep, and yet they couldn't remember what they had just dreamt about, what they had just experienced. They were quite drained, but then there was me, who could actually remember taking their hand and pulling them out of their body and seeing them in a kind of vegetable-like state. They're very non-responsive, and this is because not many people are able to keep themselves together when their consciousness leaves their body, and so they tend to kind of lose it a little bit, I wondered as to why, if that wasn't the case, why was it that I could actually interact with some people in the astral realm, and yet still, after calling them or messaging them in this reality, they tell me another story? They were speaking to me this time. We were doing things. So what changed? I think I figured it out. This is a hypothesis, if anything. Not a theory. A theory is an idea, something that makes sense in your mind, and so it might be true. An hypothesis is something a little different. It's when a group of scientists use a bunch of practical means in order to try something out, okay? Whilst in Costa Rica, I astral projected and I actually took my partner with me. Now, we didn't go anywhere but our bedroom, but I was able to actually have an intellectual conversation with her. Then I ended up coming back to my body, after which seeing her astral form fall into her physical body. I asked her straight after, "Do you remember that?" She had no clue. I'm back home now, and in Costa Rica, it's very noisy. We lived in the jungle for about a month. And so I was quite surprised I was able to do a lot of meditations there with her, especially astral projection. And so when I came back here and I laid down, astral projection became all that more easier because I had done astral projection and other meditations in a very stressful, difficult environment. And so when I came back from Costa Rica, I laid down and I left my body and I chose to go and see her. I was walking around with a buddy that was kind of, well, quite literally attached to me. You see, before I astral projected that morning, I was doing a shadow integration method, okay? Because of what was happening to me the past 2 months, a lot of healing, emotional healing. I was around a lot of disturbing energies. My consciousness was starting to be pushed into two different directions. I was still attached, and so I was able to discuss with a part of myself, which was really just the whole of myself, a series of scenarios that I went through over those past 2 months. Things that weren't quite sitting well with me, to kind of resolve a lot of stuff. I'm here now, it's very peaceful here. I'm going to ground myself and deal with a bunch of things to clear out some energy. And I was doing that and I got a little bit bored. I'm going to be honest, I wanted to switch it up a little bit. And so I left my body in the middle of meditation. And that is when I looked to my right hand side and I saw this extra part of me, which was a childlike self. It was my childlike self in the form of a shadow type being. And as I'm walking around the astrals with this thing attached to my side, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go find her. I might fly. It's saying no. I might walk. It's saying no. What if I run really fast and kind of squish space in front of me? Fold space. It said no. And so I said, okay, well then do you have any bright ideas? And it said, yeah. It took out its hand. It literally karate chopped the space in front of me, creating a tear within the space. I then went through it and kind of went backwards, propelling myself down without a rope and waving to this other part of me that I left behind. It dissolved, so I'm just assuming that it found its way back to me somehow. Maybe it just dissolved in that dimension, and when I came back, it just reattached to me. I'm not too sure, but it feels like I'm complete now. Hopefully. I land feet first, but she's still not there. And so I get the idea to, instead of me trying to get to her, why don't I just summon her to me? And I tried that, and the space around me kind of sped up, and in front of me, the view changed into a room that I've never seen before, and then kind of slammed into my surrounding environment. Then I found myself in a bedroom, and in the corner of the bedroom, she stood out of that corner, and I noticed that she also had, I'm going to call it a personality attachment. There was a part of her that was just off to the right also, but it was further back into the corner. You couldn't really see it until you made this thing mad. You see, it's my belief now, after having this interaction with her, that everybody has a part of their subconscious mind that is protecting them, or at least looking out for them in a specific kind of way, whether that be in the astral plane or just giving you information inside of your head, positive reinforcement, or telling you what not to do and what to do in life. Because when I was in front of this, my partner, let's say this because it's going to make sense in a second, but when I was in front of my partner, I was able to actually read its thoughts. And I could feel that this figure behind her was actually created out of her idea of what this thing should look like. It's actually you know what? Come to think of it, it's a tulpa. It's just a little bit more attached to a person's astral form, which is the next point that I want to get across. Something else that I learned about astral projection is that this wasn't her. It wasn't. If I was to talk to her nowadays and I was to tell her, hey, do you remember when this happened? She wouldn't remember that instance in the astral plane. And I came to that hypothesis because when I was able to read this form of her, I realized that it had multiple memories that came from different timelines. it felt like that astral form of her was a nexus point, connecting to all of the other minds of her that exists right now within different parallel timelines, different versions of her. And that I could pull a memory from any of them through her. And so this thing, this astral self of her was existing within the astral plane. And now this is why I'm starting to think, at least, that perhaps everyone, even you, has an astral self. And this astral self is literally an extension of you, in the same way that is an extension of the other versions of you. You see? And this is why not many people remember being visited by another astral projectioner, because it wasn't them with their ordinary awareness. They were here. It was instead something that they left behind. What I took from this experience was the fact that, one, I could speak to an astral self and literally attain the thoughts and the ideas and what a person is going through just by speaking to this version of them in the astral plane rather than me speaking to them here. Not just attain information from this version of them in this reality that me and you are in, but also other realities. And two, tulpas are extensions of our subconscious mind. I knew that before, but not like this. Before I made a video on tulpas whereby I mentioned as to how you can create a tulpa through using objects, I believe. You can attach tulpas to objects. Basically, they're thought forms. You create them in your imagination, or you can go to the astral plane and create them. And there isn't really something that's attaching them to you that you can see. And for this reason, you can get them to go somewhere, send messages and stuff like that. I also talked about a story where a dead girl would leave me messages on my bed. And the messages were not instant messages, they were literally handwritten notes. But they weren't handwritten, they were thought of. They were thought up, so to speak. They were thought forms manifest as a piece of paper on my bed. And I'd read it and be like, okay, this is cool, but I want to go to bed. And I'd lay down, I'd try to go to sleep, but then I'll just end up astral projecting again, and there'll be another note on my bed. And so, yeah, this is going to be about do it with this video, guys. I just wanted to share these things that I've learned so far about the astral realms. I'm probably going to astral project later on today. It is quite early right now. Actually, no. My time is all messed up. I thought it was 5 o'clock in the morning. It's actually 10. Speak to you all pretty soon. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos like this. And if you want to learn how to astral project, I do have a video course on my website, ryancropper.com. That video course really did help me out because it allowed me to understand the dynamics of astral projection. Because of that, I don't actually have a method anymore. I can just slide straight out because I understand it that much. Check it out, and I'll speak to you all pretty soon. Peace.